Cryptocurrency, DeFi, NFTs. If that sounds confusing, the BitLab Academy is here to help. We make it simple. Start investing in crypto. Learn trading fundamentals and how to make money with NFTs. Join our community today. Crypto for beginners, taught by the pros.
Welcome to Rice TV X.
You've just tuned in for the newest episode of the Rice Crypto Show. And today I am joined by returning guest Bill Noble. He is the senior market analyst at Token Metrics. He also hosts their YouTube channel. I'm going to include a link down below in a video description and as the pinned comment for the playlist that I created with not only the first interview with Bill Noble, but also a recent interview with founder and CEO of Token Metrics, Ian Balina. Today's conversation is going to include their new NFT AI research tool. We're going to be talking about Astrobot Society, a utility NFT offering lifetime memberships to Token Metrics. We're going to get into market updates and more.
Before we get into it, visit ricetvx.com and sign up for my mailing list so you never miss an update or new Rice TVX content. You will also find my various social media links and more. You can also find Rice TVX on Odyssey and Library, where I have a full catalog of my videos, post up extra content, and share other appearances. And you can also find Rice TVX on BitChute. I will include links in the video description for everything I just mentioned, as well as everything shared on today's video.
All right, joining me on today's show is returning guest, Mr. Bill Noble. He is the senior market analyst at Token Metrics. He also hosts the Token Metrics market live stream and updates that go on the YouTube channel. I will have links for everything we talk about on today's show, including our very first conversation, which I definitely encourage you to check out because I'm not going to rehash too much of the information about what Token Metrics is. I do have some Token Metrics questions. And I also did an interview with Ian Balina that I recorded yesterday, uploaded today. Today is the 16th of August, and I'm going to release this video tomorrow. So we've got a Token Metrics doubleheader going on. But Bill, welcome back to the show. How's it going, my friend?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me.
Well, I'm glad to have you on, man. I always enjoy the conversations. We did have a chance to meet. Now, we've only had the one recorded conversation, but we had a chance to meet while in Austin, Texas at Decentral. We got to be in a panel together, and I'll have a link down below for that panel if people want to check that out. That was the morality of a Web3 content creator or influencer, which I'm not a big fan of that term influencer, which I mentioned on that panel. But yeah, it was great.
Yeah, that was good stuff.
It was great meeting you. It was great meeting Ian, Zach, and everybody, over the Token Metrics team. Zach hooked me up with the Token Metrics shirt, which I greatly appreciate. So I had to.
Looking good.
Yeah, thank you. I had to wear it in today's interview. I didn't want to do it in yesterday's with Ian. I just felt it would be overdoing it, but I had to wear it today for this one. So I guess the first question I want to ask you, without rehashing too much about what Token Metrics is, and I also want to remind people that if you're watching this and you want to use Token Metrics, I do have an affiliate link down below. It's going to be in the pinned comment. It's going to be in the video description. And this is a way that you can support the channel and get hooked up with Token Metrics. And I'll also talk about another way that they're offering lifetime subscriptions via their utility NFT, which me and Ian talked about yesterday. But the first question I would ask you, Mr. Bill, would be, why do you suggest, and I know you're with Token Metrics, but why use Token Metrics?
Good question. So when you want research, you want to have quality, imagination, and multiple perspectives. So our research provides quality. Some of it's driven by AI and machine learning, right? So you get rankings of cryptos, portfolios, ideas, even technical analysis levels. generated by AI and machine learning. Then on the flip side, for chaotic environments and for just education and color, there's the human analytics team, which is, me on YouTube, me in our newsletter, and soon to be me in our Astrobot Discord. So the net is, why use token metrics? Because you want to get research. You want to see things in the market that everyone else can't see, right? So everyone's got trading view, but you could have token metrics and see the unseen.
Right. Which is a good way of putting it. And I do like the AI research. I do like the human element. Human element to me is always really important. So if people were to sign up or you're already on token metrics, this is what you would see. Now, recently, and I asked Ian about this, but recently you guys just started adding AI research tool for NFTs. Do you mind sharing your thoughts on that?
Sure. So what they've done is they have taken collections and graded them, and then they've taken NFTs inside the collections and graded them. What's a grade? Well, for tokens, it's a combination of technical analysis and MBA finance math. For NFTs, they're using volume, social data, and rarity. So it'll take an NFT from collection A and compare that to similar rarity for collection B. And the machine will actually track how these things move relative to each other. It's like looking at maybe how Ethereum trades versus Bitcoin.
Right.
Except we're doing this throughout this entire NFT universe to try to give you, find the hidden gems. Like I was looking at Parallel Alpha, right? Because it's a trading card game with low prices, not investment advice. But I noticed it had a 74 rating with a really low floor. Right there, the third one.
The third one, Parallel Alpha.
Yeah. I looked at it.
With 666 items.
Right. Well, it's I mean the AI, it's like, it's not a human being, so it'll go through certain things, but it does have a grade of 74. So in case you don't have enough money for a Bored Ape, it is flagging, at least so far, some things that are lower priced.
Okay. That's pretty cool. So, and it's looking at collections as a whole, and then it also has a separate sections for specific assets, specific NFTs. And the number one listed here is the Parallel Alpha with a grade of 100%.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so believe it or not, like we at Token Metrics, and it was the same way when we turned on our original grade back in 2020. I mean, I remember we had BitBoy on the show and we're all staring around doing exactly what we're doing now, looking at it saying, ooh, well, what's it saying?
Right.
Right. So we're figuring out how to use this just like you are. That's how new it is.
Okay, cool. And I appreciate you sharing that, because I mean, I think it's a really cool tool, and Ian kind of gives a little bit of different insight. So if you haven't seen the interview with Ian, it will be linked down below. So check that out to kind of get his insights on it. I think it's a cool idea though, because I mean, obviously NFTs are becoming more and more popular. And as I was telling him, I feel like we're really at the beginning stages of what NFTs can truly offer beyond the art, the PFP element. Now, speaking of that, you guys just are getting ready. Token Metrics is launching Astrobot Society, and I'll share the Twitter account for Astrobot Society, which is going to be 10,000 total PFP utility NFTs. And each NFT, from my understanding, is going to give you lifetime subscription to Token Metrics. And it's going to be random as far as what type of membership plan that you get. There's basic, advanced, premium, and VIP. So of the 10,000, when you mint, you may not necessarily get VIP. You may get basic. But the cool thing about them is they are transferable. Me and Ian go into that. But I'd love to get your thoughts on, especially since you're going to be involved with the Astrobot Society Discord. What are your thoughts on Astrobot Society as a whole?
All right. So let's start with art, right? We have a thing we did, and it's actually not invented by us, but art and the economy, art and stocks are not correlated. Meaning if there's trouble in the economy, art holds its value better than anything else. Now, if you were going to speculate in art and you missed the Zuki and Bored Ape, well, we're coming out with the Astrobot. So it's got, it's art, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So it's a relatively low-priced way to get your hands on art. If you wind up with a lifetime supply to a basic plan, you get art and you're going to get the NFT grade. So that $19 a month plan gets the NFT grade lifetime. Okay. So you get art, you get utility. And as I understand it, I'm going to be a featured attraction inside the Discord, like aggressively adding alpha even beyond what I do on YouTube.
Okay. Very cool. So that way, if people want to like ask you questions directly, it kind of gives them that opportunity, since it's in a Discord where people can chat kind of for real time.
Right. So we're going to, there's going to be chat, we're going to be pushing, the market update, special versions of the market update, TA education. And then, there are designs on, making, I don't want to say investment advice, because that's obviously we can't do that, but more specific ideas about market direction. Let's put it that way.
Well, I would say when you're interacting on more private element, you have more of you have more freedom with things that you can say.
Right.
Especially if you're dealing with a community that wants to be involved, and you're not dealing with any malicious actors. Another thing that Ian had mentioned, in addition to the stuff that you had already mentioned with getting lifetime access and also getting access to the exclusive alpha group, is that there's going to be different raffles, talking about raffling a Lambo,
right?
Blue chip NFTs, merch, and things to that effect, which I think is pretty cool. What do you think about that?
Well, our NFT guys, I mean, Ian Balina is obviously, he's like the original altcoin guy. So him, our management team, and the guys running Astrobots, they're NFT analysts themselves. I know them. They kind of, for lack of a better term, they came up under me as analysts and then exploded into NFTs.
Right.
So they know what they're doing, and they know how to build a community and get people excited.
And that's a good way of putting it too, because an effective team, you're going to have people that are stronger in different areas than others. So, and it's, for one thing that I started realizing just in the first few months of being involved in crypto, is it's hard to know everything. So being involved with a team that can focus on different areas and then share that information with each other helps to enlighten you, and also gives more specialized focus in different areas, which I appreciate as well.
Right. So inside the Discord, the thing that makes the Discord is there's going to be the AI components, for example, in NFTs. There's going to be NFT analysts, along with me and the market and everything else we have to offer on our regular site. And then the way I see it, you get to speculate in art at what I would deem to be reasonable prices versus other collections. Not investment advice.
Right. Not investment advice. But there's going to be, the way that Ian was talking, that there's going to be like some sort of storyline that kind of goes along with this. So it kind of makes this more than just art. It makes it more interactive and more community driven, which I like those kind of things, as opposed to just capitalizing on something that doesn't really offer real utility. Because the first thing that, when I first heard about this whole idea of the NFT, was I was like, so what is it? How does that affect somebody who chooses to do a membership plan just the normal way? And ultimately it doesn't. Just if you want to get away from paying a monthly subscription, you could get an NFT. And if you want to do so, again, there's a contest to get on the whitelist, where if you sign up and register through this website, which is linked in the video description and pinned comment, 10 random people will be chosen to be a part of the whitelist and get to mint their NFTs before it's available publicly. Any idea yet on the launch? Are you allowed to give any information out? I know that there's no date quite announced.
I think when they say coming soon, I think I'm inclined to take that seriously. I think I've heard that there's chatter that they want you to have 0.25 ETH in your wallet to anchor yourself into the whitelist. But, pricing, release date, and all that. Really what I know about Astrobots is the analysts who poured over NFT projects for a year, like dozens of them weekly kind of thing. They're the ones that have helped create the Astrobot story. So the guys who have been evaluating projects are the ones who created our project.
Okay. Which makes a lot of sense. Now, before I start asking you questions about macroeconomics, the cryptocurrency markets and things like that, did you have any other information, anything that you wanted to highlight in regards to the Token Metrics website or anything that you guys have going on currently?
Well, I believe the best way to find out about Astrobot Society is to follow the Twitter at Astrobot Society. And just to remind you that, before we start talking market direction, the basic plan gets the NFT grade. And as I understand it, there are plans to expand that out, more assets, Solana, etc. So I think the sooner you figure out how to use that, I'm going to say both. The sooner you figure out how to use that to make money, the more practice you get, the better off you'll be.
Okay, cool. Well, I definitely look forward to, deep diving into not only the NFT research tool, but once everything is launched with Astrobot Society, kind of digging into everything and look forward to learning about more utility and all the news is going to be coming towards the action. Okay, so we are at the Token Metrics website. Now, this is what it would look like if you had a premium plan. I'm not going to show a whole lot of information, but what are your thoughts right now on the overall crypto market?
Okay.
And,
well,
and I guess
if you're able to go back to that screen, I don't know if you're able to go back.
Yeah.
Okay. If you scroll down just a little bit to that dial. Okay. So our quant guys did some work. This dial is the number of big cryptos above their 60-day exponential moving average. Right? They came up with, they back tested, they found that's a good moving average to watch. 19% of big cap cryptos are above, say, their 3-month average. And I think that's too low. So I think in order for the market to go up, it has to go much higher than you think before it can go much lower than you think. So I'm thinking that there's going to be an August dump, and then September could be very positive, and you could get 75 or 80% of the big cryptos above this key moving average. So, and then I think, if we're going to have problems, it'll be later. So this is one of the things on the website. I mean, I look at that every day.
Right.
That dial.
It's kind of like your version, the Token Metrics version of the fear and greed index almost.
Yes, it is. It doesn't move as fast, right? But like I said, if there's a breakout in the market on the upside, it will, that'll be it'll go from 19 to 60. So rather than having to look at 300 charts, I watch the dial.
Okay. That makes sense. And it's 19%. So you're saying that represents 19% of the cryptos right now or over their 3-month average. Is that what you said?
Yeah, roughly. Yes. That's it in English.
Okay. You can't change that frequency though, can you?
No.
Okay.
No.
That stays where it is. All right. Because a lot of the other things, they are customizable and you could change. So
right.
okay, I guess what I'd like to ask you,
Okay.
it was before we started recording, I was mentioning bull market versus bear market. A lot of people, they see this upward price action happening in cryptocurrency and they think we're out of the woods. They think that we're in the beginning stages of a bull market, that everything's just going to take off. What are your overall thoughts in regards to where we are in the market cycle?
Okay. So the theme is much higher before much lower. Okay. I think people are probably too bullish now. Like I've seen Google searches for the Ethereum merge at all-time highs. Okay. Wall Street Journal declaring, stock market can go up even though it's a bear market. So when you see stuff like this, you probably get a short-term dump. I think overall it's a down market in the sense that, there's a lot of risky things that can happen, and we can go into that. Right. But with this ETH merge and the supply reduction that comes from that, one thing I tell people is never underestimate the power of a bear market rally. Like, yes, I know ETH is 50% off of its lows, but a lot of times bear market rallies in their pure form can be just totally vertical, right? Like totally vertical.
Okay.
So, ETH at some crazy number like 3,500 at the end of September is not out of the question, followed by, I don't know, I'm going to coin it right now. They use it for elections. There's going to be an October surprise, right? Normally it's political. I think it's also going to be economic. We can talk more about that, but it's up and then down. And, you're probably going to see really rough price action in October and November.
October, November, rough price action.
Yes, I would think so.
Okay. And yeah, we could definitely get into the specifics. You mentioned Ethereum 2.0 going over to the proof of stake from proof of work, changing their consensus mechanism, kind of doing it while they're driving, but obviously they're utilizing their various test networks to make sure that there's not going to be any issues before doing so. What are your thoughts on the whole idea of what Ethereum is trying to do with the merge, splurge, and all the other urges that are going on with ETH 2.0?
Okay. Well, I mean, last year, every layer one that was released was going to kill ETH. Now this is, the Empire Strikes Back, right? ETH 2.0 is like, you're going to kill us. We'll show you. So they're going to go to proof of stake. They're going to reduce the supply. They're going to create a Bitcoin halving event. Now, there may be all kinds of things that happen. There may be a hard fork where somebody decides we're going to have ETH 2.0 and, a proof of work form of ETH, which I would personally be very interested in. I'd love to have, ETH as a software layer one and ETH as money. I would think that would be cool.
Well, since you said that, what are your thoughts on Ethereum Classic then?
Well, I mean, Ethereum Classic, I view it's like the Netscape internet browser. Nobody remembers this, but Ethereum Classic was like, the first thing that came out, right? Now, if they do another fork, that fork of ETH might actually, be a lot nicer, or I don't know, nicer, might be a lot more speculatively interesting than ETH Classic, right? It might be like a pure money play. Whereas like when you say ETH Classic to people, you're like, oh, what are you going to do with that?
Right.
Because I mean, you can still, if there was a proof of work ETH, you could still run an NFT platform on that. Okay. So
no, you could.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, I'm guessing, ETH 2.0 comes out, whatever it is, moons hard, right? Way more than people think. And then the surprise later on is that, if I'm saying his name right, is that Gensler says proof of stake ETH is a security, right? Like proof of work ETH is not a security, but if they go to proof of stake, then, the SEC might take its shot later in the year.
Yeah, no, that's interesting to think about it. I didn't think about that because it kind of changes things. If they are changing the protocol, it could change how it was originally deemed via the Hinman incident tapes or whatever you want to call it. You said moon hard as far as Ethereum. Like, do you, because a lot of times it's said in crypto, buy the rumor, sell the news.
Right.
Do you see it as one of those type of situations where we're going to see a price pump before it takes place, or do you see it taking place more so afterwards?
I think it's like a Bitcoin halving, except it's going to be like in a condensed format. For example, I think everyone just paid $2,000 because they thought it was going to break out. And then those people may get flushed out at the end of the month. Then as soon as New York money managers come back in from the Labor Day weekend, It's the end of summer on the East Coast. Everyone's at the beach.
Right.
These guys are going to walk in, and the first thing they're going to do is they're going to buy ETH, right? The institutions are going to drive it. Retail's going to jump in. It'll go all the way. I'm sure there'll be some intrigue around the date, but I think whatever happens, they're going to take either the fork or the not forked. They're going to take it all and run with it for like 15 days, because that's the history of ETH, right? Like ETH either sits and does nothing in a square range, right? Or it just flies when it's going up. So,
yeah,
you could see some wild action. And again, worst case scenario, you can look at it as a Bitcoin halving. You can look at it as a bear market rally. Either way, it could get nuts on the upside, right? Now, of course, on the flip, again, taking it one step further, if you think there's FOMO at 2000, can you imagine the FOMO of what people would be saying? People would be calling for 100K Bitcoin, right? And that's when
that's a good time to take some profits.
Exit.
Right. Yeah. You gotta, I think the crypto community are starting to mature about market cycles. I'm starting to comprehend it a lot better. So, and it's just understanding the patterns and the fractals, how it's really interesting how the sacred geometry, the Fibonacci, how all of that kind of comes into play when you're looking at charts. It's really, it's harmonic to nature, which is not something that you would think about when it comes to analyzing stock market or cryptocurrency charts. So I find it fascinating, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens with ETH. What do you think about the idea of flippening, where the Ethereum market cap overtakes the Bitcoin market cap?
Well, I mean, I think if you have a flippening, and I've said this, and people think I'm out of my mind. If you have a flippening, it's not going to be in a bull market. It's going to be in a down market, right? In other words, a flippening would occur the day someone woke up and said, Bitcoin has no privacy layer. People like Celsius and other big players who have been using Bitcoin as collateral have to liquidate, right? So you'd get a flippening if Bitcoin all of a sudden, became the center point of another liquidation frenzy, or God forbid, some sort of SEC general attack on crypto itself. So ETH will always have sort of that currency of culture, right? And I think in a tremendous down market, the next one, if it happens, ETH may hold up better because of the supply reduction, right? So,
and we're talking in the future though, because I mean, obviously, just with this market that we've seen in the past few months, Bitcoin hasn't moved as much as Ethereum has, where Ethereum seems to be 100% up from its lows,
right,
from its June lows, and Bitcoin is not quite in the same position, which means that Bitcoin has less to fall when we see the markets kind of get a hit. And that's the interesting thing about where I want to take the conversation after we kind of get into Bitcoin, is just the whole geopolitical element and everything going on economically, and how that's going to affect things as a potential black swan per se in crypto. But what are your thoughts on Bitcoin for the short term, for the next few months?
Well, something is happening in Bitcoin right now. My guess is three things. One, I think Michael Saylor had to get rid of his derivatives position. Okay. He's got the core Bitcoin holdings, but they had to stop using leverage. Two, I think the Mt. Gox people are hedging, expecting some sort of unlock. So they're all hedging right now, right? And then I just think, like I said, Bitcoin requires sponsorship. Institutions want to own it, but they only want to own it when it's going up. So this is what happened to 10K in Bitcoin, right? It sat there dead while all the action was in ETH and DeFi. And then eventually it took off. So in September, with the ETH merge, one of the things that could be surprising is how much Bitcoin does catch up. But, as we were saying earlier, you know, if Celsius has to liquidate a whole bunch of wrapped Bitcoin in their bankruptcy proceedings, you know, all bets are off. So I still think with Bitcoin, it's much higher before much lower.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm being very speculative myself, and it's kind of hard to almost judge what's going on. I definitely don't feel that we're entering a bull market. In a bear market, you can still have rallies that may look similar to what you would see in a bull market, but as far as all technicals seem to be reading, we're still in a bear market, and we should be for quite some time, at least through the end of the year. Now, the interesting thing that we have going on is from a geopolitical standpoint. Actually, before I even get into that, you mentioned an SEC, an attack on crypto. And I did want to ask you about your thoughts on Tornado Cash and that whole situation. And then we can kind of get into the geopolitical elements. The SEC is attacking crypto and have been. And a lot of people are putting a lot of precedence and paying more attention to what's happening with the XRP Ripple case.
Right.
But I'm going to pull up a website here while I'm talking to you. A lot of people are not paying attention to Library. I'm not sure if you're familiar with their situation, but their situation can actually, if there's a ruling on this that goes negative before the ruling on the XRP case, it could set a precedent. And they're ultimately, it's really crazy, man. SEC attorneys have basically said that, I don't have my notes in front of me, but it was like a dual nature. Actually, I have my notes in this. It's because it's really interesting what they're trying to, the verbiage that they're trying to use. They're calling it a mixed use case. This is between the attorney and the judges, the SEC attorney and the judges. And obviously the attorneys representing Library are former SEC guys anyway, so it's all SEC anyway. So, but they were saying some expectation of profit, no matter how much that expectation, it's a security. And they also mentioned that utility doesn't matter. They've even had SEC attorneys admit that people are utilizing the Library token for utility, but said again, if there's any sort of speculation that it's considered a security. So there's John Deaton has gotten involved with this. He did an interview with the CEO founder, Jeremy Kauffman, and I've interviewed him a couple times, and I just had him on recently. He's also going to be running for Senate in New Hampshire in the same area that Bruce Fenton is, and I'm actually going to be interviewing Bruce Fenton next week. But if you're not familiar with this Library case with SEC, you should definitely familiarize yourself, because it's a really big deal for cryptocurrency. And this case might actually be more important right now than the XRP case. And we may be coming to a close with it. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But with that being said, the SEC is part of the United States government. We've had OFAC, which is the Office of Foreign Assets Control, as part of the Treasury Department. And they're deeming Tornado Cash's protocol to be illegal, saying that it is a national security threat, money laundering, etc. What are your thoughts, man?
Okay. Well, I mean, I think I would start by saying, you know, we want the crypto market to be a clean market. We want a clean market. Now, with that said, I think the SEC has lost the case against Ripple. Okay. Ripple was at consensus, the CEO saying, you know, the SEC has lost the case. They're offering us a settlement. We're not taking it. So they can't pick on Ripple anymore. They're going to have to find something else. Now, what's the something else? Well, it's anything that they can get their hands on. They're looking for they're like alligators in a nature show. They're looking for a three-legged zebra trying to cross the river. In this case, it was Tornado Cash. Now, the other reason is, after this debacle where billions and billions of dollars vanished, they're going to come down on somebody. They have to just look like they're doing something. So Tornado Cash may have been used by nefarious actors. Some guy wrote a bunch of open source code, and now, you know, you better hope that somebody can't send you $20 worth of Tornado Cash because
Yeah, I know. I heard about that.
Yeah, the U.S. government's going to come call. So,
or you're not going to be able to, your address will be blacklisted.
Right. So again, but usually when governments do these things, they sometimes backfire. So I consensus, I got really into Zcash, right? That's going to be like the coin I want to study technically and fundamentally. And then everyone was like, okay, boomer, right? But then Tornado Cash ignited the privacy narrative, and people are watching what the government's doing to Tornado Cash, or people are watching, the Federal Bureau of Investigation kicking in an ex-president's door. Like him, not like him, doesn't matter. People go, wow, maybe we should be talking about privacy. And I'm like, yeah, maybe you should, maybe you should. So I also think with the SEC, and I'm not getting any love on this, is that I think, the last leg down in crypto was obviously about liquidation and crashes. The next leg down in crypto, which no one talks about, by the way, everyone's like, yeah, it's going to go down, but no one talks about why, right? You could have this guy Gensler on the warpath, right? In other words, one of the things why ETH and Bitcoin could go much higher and much harder than anyone thinks is that, if Gensler comes out and says Bitcoin and ETH are okay, but the rest of this stuff is all securities, you're going to have like a winner take all rally in two cryptos and everything else getting hammered. Like, just saying.
No, I can see that. I can see that playing out. Right? If that were the case.
Right. So, the SEC after this debacle has to do something. I mean, did you see this thing with 3 Hours Capital where they had a $50 million yacht? I mean, come on. Right? Regulators, guys who make, 75 grand a year in polyester suits with badges and guns, they hate that kind of stuff.
Right.
And regulators, I know we vilify them. It's cool to vilify them, but there's an element in the regulatory community where people are there to say, a lot of little people lost a lot of money in this. So that urge to protect the people is going to be there and is going to drive behavior. Now, you don't have to like the SEC, but, the little guy got effed here.
Yeah, but I mean, and I agree with you. I mean, I'm not a big fan of regulation, but when we have minimal regulation, it's not stifling and throttling an industry that is more protecting the users, that I'm sure most people would not have a problem with. It's just the other side of it, the corruption aspect, because it does seem like there's an agenda that the SEC has. I've listened to Ben Armstrong, BitBoy, talk about how he thinks the XRP case and everything that's going on with the SEC is going to cause the demise of the SEC, which would be interesting to think about that taking place. Because a lot of what we base the SEC on is all antiquated anyways. So it would be nice to update some of those 1930s, 1940s laws and kind of bring us into present day.
Right. Well, I think what it may do is I'll meet everybody in the middle. I think if they lose the case against Ripple, it's going to change. The SEC chairman can't be this perma crypto hater, right? He just can't be. They have to embrace. I mean, the Fed just opened up its lending facilities to crypto banks. I mean, the Fed's like, we don't want the system to blow up. We want to help these banks. So, I think the SEC is just going to have to change. So if it means it ends as we know it, or it means there's like a digital asset arm where, we kind of stop the hate and just protect investors and police the system, that would be preferable.
Right. Well, then the next line of conversation I want to get into is kind of getting into this geopolitical element, getting into what's happening from a macroeconomic standpoint, and starting with the United States dollar, because crypto seems to be very correlated still to the stock markets, the traditional stock markets. And the traditional stock market seems to go down when the dollar is strong, and when the dollar is weak, and it goes up. So we're at this point now where the Federal Reserve is trying to fix the problem they created with this high amounts of inflation. We got the CPI data from a month ago at 9.1%, which was pretty high. The newest CPI data that came out just like a week ago was like 8.5%. So it shows it's going down. It's still high, but it shows it's going down. The Federal Reserve is not doing another FOMC meeting until the 20th and 21st of next month. Right. And we'll have more CPI and PPI data coming in. Do you pay attention to like those kind of things, like where we're headed? Do you think the CPI data is going to come in lower than where we reported this past month from a year ago?
Okay, well, yes, I do follow it, and here's how I follow it. So obviously, well, that's not obviously. People don't realize that the Fed knows what these numbers are before you do. Like, don't think the Fed sits glued to its screen going, ooh, what's the number going to be? They know what the numbers are. All right. Now, the Fed has already stated that in September, they're going to fire the bazooka. You're either going to see 70, you're going to see at least 75. I think you could see 100 or 125. And here's why. All right. Obviously,
even if the CPI data comes in lower.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Because it's still 8%, right? It's not going to go from 8 to 5 in a month, right? I mean, you know, the price of eggs is now mooning, right? You know, commodities are like altcoins. So, yeah. You know, so the Fed knows the numbers. They're going to fire the bazooka. And the reason they're going to fire the bazooka in September, and the reason the September numbers don't really matter, is they're going to do a huge rate hike because they really can't be seen wrecking the economy in front of an election, right?
That's the other problem, is that we have midterm elections and the Democrats aren't looking very good with everything that's happening. Changing the definitions of words like recession, putting out bills called Inflation Reduction Act, which really don't do anything on the short term to reduce inflation. It's an interesting predicament that we're in.
Okay, well, I mean, it is. Normally the Fed tries to stay apolitical around elections unless there's a disaster. Okay, I do think, you know, the case against the Democratic Party with the inflation numbers, the economy, et cetera, is overwhelming. However, I have seen numbers. I've actually got the graph. I have seen numbers where the polls are dead even. So since the Supreme Court decision, let's just call it about women's health and okay, the women's health Supreme Court decision, this election is now tied, right? And nobody thinks the Democratic Party can win, right? And you don't have to like them or not like them, but can you imagine if that social issue completely changes that election outcome? You have an all-Democratic Senate and president, and what that could mean for regulation, capital gains taxes. I mean, folks, it was like 80% chance of a Republican victory and a 20% chance of Democrat, and it's 50-50. And you know how good we are at counting votes, right?
Yeah, we're the best.
We're the best. So, you know, expect social disorder around this election, right? And, you know, crypto people, what I'm telling them is, you know, get while the getting's good. You know, if September is going to be if there's going to be a mini August dump or a range, and it's going to be, you know, a September on the upside because of the merge, then take advantage of that. Because again, come October, November, there's election, war, monkeypox. No one wants to talk about, right? There's a lot of stuff that may not be positive.
Yeah, no, I think they've already called a national health emergency when it comes to the monkey issue. If they want to kind of do a repeat of 2020, that could have dire effects on our economy. It doesn't seem like that would even be prudent to do. Like, it seems like whoever decides to make that decision, if that's what was to take place, would be killing the United States as we know it.
Right. Well,
maybe that's the purpose. I don't know.
Well, the thing about that is, you know, from what I've read, sparing you the medical details, but the pain can't be killed by painkillers, and the pain is in a place you don't want to know. Okay, you don't even want to talk about it. That's how bad it is. And if that's the way it is, then no one's going to have to tell people to stay home. People are going to stay home voluntarily. Restaurants, movie theaters, malls.
Right.
Stadiums, done. People are just going to go right back into COVID mode. Everyone's got their webcam and their mic. And that's how it's going to be. So, and the thing is about that, whether there's a recession, a war, or any event, the Fed cannot print us out of the problem, right? In other words, in 2020, the Fed was like, oh, well, we did 6 trillion over the last 12 years. We'll just do another 6. Okay, they can't do that anymore.
No, they're done with that, because at that point, they would be literally inflating the market to the point that if you think about a balloon inflating and you just keep inflating the balloon, eventually the balloon just pops.
Right. Not to mention what it would do to commodity prices. Like, if somebody's going to bake a cake, it can't cost $15 or $25 for the ingredients to bake a cake. That just can't happen. They cannot print anymore. So any negative developments that occur, their hands are tied. They might be able to lower interest rates, but, let's face it, the markets, equities, even crypto to a certain extent, it runs on sugar. Altcoins run on sugar, right? Bitcoin and Ethereum can move around, but, to get a speculative wave going, you need sugar. And if you have conversely, if you get weaned off sugar and put on broccoli, that's bad.
Okay, well, and I guess, so far you haven't said anything that I feel like is going to be a problem with the YouTube algorithm, but just kind of tread carefully through the end of the year. You're saying that from your perspective, and this is all just your opinion and speculation, that we should see some sort of a, not dump, but decline in the price this month, and potential upside action in September, and then come October, November, things starting to get bad, in your opinion. Now, do you think in that time period, the October, November time period, do you feel like we're going to go lower than what we had seen in the June downtrend, which took us to about 17.5 in the Bitcoin element, and I think about $600-700 on Ethereum?
Okay, so that's really tough, right? Like crystal balling it.
No, I'm not holding you to this. I'm
Right.
just trying to get your overall general thoughts, based off the information that you've gotten up to this point.
Yeah, I think, yes, I think that's accurate, right? You get a range or a correction in August, maybe, right? There's a saying in equities, don't go long into a long weekend. So the Labor Day weekend's a 3-day weekend, and people may just take profits and go to the beach.
Right.
Then when people come back, it's up. And then October, November, they always say in an election year, they use the term October surprise. Okay. So that could be something that affects markets. So I don't know if it's going to make a new low. Okay. I guess for that to happen, you'd have to have a lot of negative things go on. Celsius emerging from bankruptcy. What I would say is it's possible. Okay. It's possible. It's also possible the market could be in some huge range. So the range in Bitcoin could be like 17 to 35, right?
Yeah.
Everyone hates it at 17, loves it at 35, and back and forth we go. So I won't know whether it's a range or a calamity, frankly, until you see how high it can go, right? The higher it goes, the more it can fall later.
But you feel as if, from your opinion, in September, we should see some more upside action than where we're currently at with prices?
I would think so, yes.
Okay.
I think, my GAN work, and then just common sense about the ETH merge. I don't think the equivalent of multiple Bitcoin halvings is priced into ETH. And I also think that there's a winner take all element, right, where all the capital that's elsewhere in crypto floods into ETH. And then there's this whole idea of no matter how bad CPI is, the Fed's going to do a huge rate hike, and then they have to chill out until after the election. So the market has like a month or two to live in la-la land if it wants to.
That's kind of what I thought once we got the positive CPI data, which I don't look at as positive, but considering 8.5 versus 9.1, I guess that is positive, but 8.5 is still shitty for the everyday individual, which is obviously not even a correct number anyways. It's a lot higher than that.
It's a lot higher than that, right?
Which is ridiculous. Now I know you can't foresee in the future, but do you see 2023 us entering into a bull market phase? Do you see the end of the bear market taking place kind of towards the end of this year, beginning of next year? Your overall thoughts on that?
Okay, well, 2023 is a function of who controls Congress, right? So if the Democrats control Congress, you're going to have a lot of selling going on early. All right. I do expect enough chaos in October and November that the way I say it about next year is, if the market goes down at the end of this year, people may wind up being so upset, the SEC, who knows? They may be so upset that, believe it or not, they may be puking crypto at exactly the moment where you're going to actually need it. Like, not need it as in like, for your investment account. I mean, really need it the way you needed, the internet. Like, go back to 2002. Like, I like in 2023, possibly to 2002 or 2003. Nobody would touch the internet stocks. Warren Buffett passed on the Google IPO. That's how hard internet stocks went down. Ironically, nobody wanted to buy Amazon at the low for pennies. Obviously, you're millionaire 20 years later. This time, I think if there's an avalanche lower in crypto, you're going to buy crypto because you're going to want to use it as money. This is what Snowden says at Consensus. It's not just an investment. It's something that you're going to need to start using. And I think 2023 is the dawn of crypto as money. For real.
Yeah, I realize now I muted myself. That would be nice to think about. I've always kind of thought about crypto as being the lifeboat that would be there when people are jumping off the fiat ships. Because at some point, I feel with everything that's going on economically, because we're getting to a point. I mean, we're at the end of a fiat cycle. We're all this talk about resets and different things. People will lose faith in their governments. They will lose faith in the banks, especially if we head towards depressionary action, which I feel like is definitely in the cards. Especially when you look at everything that's transpired and you compare it to 1929 and what took place then and what a lot of analysts and macroeconomists are saying in regards to where we're headed. I mean, I think it was even Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan, and I can't cite the source, but came out talking about what's ahead of us is definitely going to be worse than a recession.
Right.
Which is interesting to hear that come from him, considering everything that the government's spouting out about we're not in a recession. Just like President Biden says that we're not experiencing any inflation either, which is completely asinine.
Right. So, I mean, I think, look, I think there's an element of doom and gloom that's already here. Rents are out of control. People are not food secure. All you need is a slowdown in hiring or big companies like the ones the government just taxed for its inflation reduction bill. I mean, if you ever started to get layoffs, unemployment checks wouldn't act as a safety net.
No.
So I think in a certain component of the population, like in England, the middle class is being wiped out. They haven't seen this since the 60s, and that was before even I was born, right? Like, people can't pay their electric. It's like electricity, fuel, and food, pick two, right? I mean, that was the Depression, like bread lines, Dust Bowl. If you go back and look at all that, okay, obviously it's not the Dust Bowl and people sleeping in alleys, but I think the misery that people are going through right now, I mean, Europe is telling its citizens to prepare for wartime, like siege conditions. The biggest Google topic in Germany is firewood. The German word for firewood is most searched. So
that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean,
And it's
guys,
crazy what Germany's done to itself. I mean, I've heard the issues about energy. They wanted to go more green. They stopped using nuclear plants because of what's happening with Russia, Ukraine. They've cut themselves off from Russia, and it's not good, which is the reason why the Germans are looking up firewood.
Right. And the Germans are also talking about, I saw a headline today in a chat room where they're talking about, either activating, reactivating, or continuing to use 3 nuclear plants. So, I mean, we're at war with the Russians. I mean, we're at war. Okay. And, it doesn't look like the West is winning because he can apply very high levels of pressure. And frankly, my heart goes out to the people in Europe. My relatives landed at Normandy. So, I kind of hope we help those people at some point.
I mean, when it comes to the geopolitical situation and you look at what's going on with Russia, Ukraine, you kind of look at what's happening with the World Economic Forum and their agendas, their young global leaders. You look at what's happening from an economic standpoint. You look at all the division that's going on, all the riots, all the uprisings. I mean, all this stuff is kind of escalating into something that I think is going to be a lot bigger than people can imagine. I don't want to make this all doom and gloom. If you're ever interested in having like an uncensored, unfiltered conversation that has nothing to necessarily do with token metrics, so it doesn't affect your position there, and you just want to kind of just have an uncensored conversation about what's going on, I would love to do that if you're interested.
Hey man, I'm all in. You know what I'm saying? Like, we'll just switch out the hats, because we got to talk about this. This all affects crypto. Right. It affects crypto, and
it does.
The deeper you go into October, November, now it's about the merge, but later on it'll be about other things. Right. And it won't be just, we may look back in 3-4 months and go, wasn't it funny how we were like all wound up about what CPI was or what the unemployment number was. There may be bigger catalysts out there waiting. And it doesn't have to be doom and gloom. Actually, I would recommend the opposite mentality. When the doom and gloom comes, that's the opportunity to get crypto on a ledger, not investment advice, because you may actually need that to pay for things.
Right. And I'm a big proponent too of things like precious metals, gold and silver, barter abilities. That's where I would love to have, a conversation that kind of gets away from the token metric stuff and can let you let loose.
Yeah, let it rip.
I can tell that you're holding back on some things, and I get it, and I also get it because of the YouTube algorithm. But it's 2 things I want to highlight. People in crypto, and I've heard this from a lot of channels, are like, I don't want to talk about anything political. Well, then how can you be a crypto channel? Because I feel as if they go hand in hand because of what they were created for. And then something too is I've been trying to put a lot of emphasis and focus on the US dollar. And a lot of people are like, why? And it's because what's happening with the dollar affects everything else.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's important for people to pay attention to those elements.
Yeah, I mean, dollar up means all other currencies. That means the euro, the yen, it means crypto, emerging market currencies. I mean, you have countries going bankrupt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not just Sri Lanka. Like, Pakistan had problems. I mean, these are not small countries, right? So
no, and I think more countries are bankrupt. I mean, there's talks about China, the defaulting on all the debt that's going on. I don't know how that's going to affect the nation as a whole, but there's a lot of talk about this.
Right. And I'm sure there's a lot of, I mean, Ray Dalio from Bridgewater is betting on, corporations in the US, real estate, almost like a repeat of 2008. So, if we had a different discussion, it's not that different from what we're having now, right? I think crypto people, I think you need to have your bottled water, your canned goods, and your ledger. I mean, we can go into more in-depth why, but you need to have it.
How many people do you know that are in the crypto space that work with My Patriot Supply that are telling people to take advantage and save on emergency foods? Because when you're hearing on the mainstream news and from politicians about a global food shortage,
Right.
that's not a joke. Yeah,
No, it's not a joke.
Now, I really truly feel that since the dollar is technically the world reserve currency, we're not going to experience a lot of the tribulations that other people experience first. We're going to kind of get the brunt last end of it. But I definitely feel like a rude awakening is coming. It could be on levels of Venezuela, Zimbabwe, and to use Venezuela as an example, not that they had to have crypto to be able to interact, but crypto allowed for them to maintain their purchasing power because the fiat money was losing so much value.
Right. And
it's crazy to think about that.
Yeah, no, it is crazy to think about it. But I think you have to think about it. Like, you have to think about a world where, you know, Amazon, Google Pay, Apple Pay, everybody all of a sudden says, you know, we're accepting these cryptocurrencies as payment now. Right. I mean, you could have problems with the banking system. And as you said, with food, you know, the global reserve currency that commodities are traded in is dollars. So if we're paying in dollars for commodities and food, we'll get food, as in the United States. Now, what price we'll have to pay, it could be astronomical. Right. But if people don't have dollars, right, or, you know, they're just, you know, they could be priced out of food.
Yeah, I don't feel as if there's going to be a situation where there's no food available. I feel like the supply and what will be available will be limited, and then what is available will be highly priced because of what's going on with the economic situation, with the inflation. Because I mean, just everything's gotten way out of control when it comes to what central banks and governments have been doing with their monetary policy. Just best way to put it.
And if you think about the FOMO, like if you think about all the FOMO at the top of all these rallies, right? I mean, if you went into a crypto convention at the top of any of these moves and said, you know, the most important use case for crypto in the future is to buy food. And people, I mean, you wouldn't, you want to talk about, oh, you know, like for me,
well, it makes it
boomer thing. I mean, seriously,
it would bring a new meaning to pizza day.
Right. It would bring a new meaning to pizza day. And, you know, the day that Walmart starts accepting any form of crypto to try to lure people back into the stores. Listen, these things, like I said, these things occur at the point of revulsion, right? So you got Astrobot up there, you know, you need art, you need crypto, and you need it when no one thinks you need it or no one wants it. Like, I mean, you know, Bitcoin, for God's sake, when Bitcoin was at 20, was at 60. If you had said you could buy Bitcoin at 23, when Michael Saylor was getting removed as chairman or CEO of MicroStrategy, you'd be like, oh yeah, I
thought he stepped down. Come on, man.
Okay, well, I mean, he you know, it was strongly suggested.
Right. No, I kind of know what was going on a little bit.
Right. If they wanted to continue to sell software, right? But the point is, you would have said, oh yeah, Bitcoin 20K, no brainer. It's at 20K and no one seems particularly interested. Right. So, you know, whatever happens later, you know, remember the reason why, as you noted, you know, why they needed crypto in Venezuela, why they needed it in Zimbabwe. And if there's this revulsion phase where everybody goes, oh my God, crypto, or the SEC or whatever, the worse it looks, the more you need it. The harder it is to buy, the more you should buy, right? I mean, it's never easy to buy at the bottom. It never is, right? So if there's consternation and fear, you know, like for your own survival, think about crypto.
We're definitely going to have to do a conversation. I'll reach out to you in the next few days on Telegram and try to see if we can schedule something for next week if you have the availability. Bill, I appreciate your time, and I definitely going to look forward to having many more conversations. I thoroughly enjoyed them. I'm going to have a link for your personal Twitter account at crypto_noble. I'll have a link for Astrobot Society. I'll also have my particular link for the pre-mint where you can sign up one of the winners to get a whitelist spot for the Astrobot Society. I have a link for the Tokenmetrics Telegram. Tokenmetrics, I say Telegram, it's Twitter. The Tokenmetrics Twitter, also the Tokenmetrics YouTube channel, and for Token Metrics. Make sure if you want to sign up and you're not wanting to get an NFT and you just want to go to the traditional route, to use my affiliate link. It'll be down below in the video description and the pinned comment as well. Mr. Bill, you got any final thoughts or anything that you would like to add to today's conversation before we wrap up?
Hey, stay tuned. Stay tuned on this channel for more on markets, right? For more from Token Metrics, and most importantly, right, stay here on this channel, because common sense and the survival instinct will do you well going forward.
You do appearances with Crypto Debate, don't you? Or Debate Crypto. I'm dyslexic with that name. I don't know why I always mix the two words up in their placement. Also, I called you Bill Nolan yesterday when I was interviewing Ian, and I don't even know where Nolan came out. Like, it was like just stuck in my brain for whatever reason.
No,
but
that's all right, man. I got a new stage name. Yeah, I've done some work with Debate Crypto.
I can feel the like-mindedness.
Their angle, I think their angle is compelling, actually.
Yeah, no, and I do like what they're doing with their NFT project in addition to their YouTube channel.
Yes, it's very interesting.
Did you've been, because I can't watch everybody's content constantly, but I think there was a video on my playlist from last week. Were you on with Gareth Soloway, Frankie Candles?
Right. Yes.
Somebody else?
Right. I've done one where they've all been there, and then I've done one where it's just me and the debate guys.
Okay, cool. Well, I definitely encourage people to check out those episodes. Again, man, I really appreciate your time. I'm just going to go ahead and wrap up the recording. I appreciate you guys for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, make sure you subscribed. I also encourage you to follow me on other platforms such as Library, Odyssey, and BitChute. Hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with my videos as they come out. Use my affiliate link if you want to sign up and join Token Metrics. If you're interested in joining the Astrobot Society, make sure you're using my link for that as well. Again, pinned comment and video description, you will find that information. I'm going to leave you with this. Be blessed, be the change, practice change. And I'll see you on the next episode.